This article's entitled, this is from National News, entitled, "The NASA Probe to Deliver Package to Utah Desert After 7-Year Wait." Wow, that's a long time, NASA. 7 years. A lot of coordination, a lot of planning. You must have a lot of departments there at NASA. Let's get into it. From Dugway, Utah. A 30-minute drive into the remote Dugway Proving Grounds is a patch of desert that is expecting a unique package drop. A package that has taken 7 years to deliver. This package, rather than coming from FedEx or UPS, is coming from a near-Earth asteroid named Bennu, and is being delivered by the spacecraft OSIRIS-REx. Interesting coding. OSIRIS-REx. Well, let's look into that name of the spacecraft, apparently, that's delivering this package from an asteroid. What is Osiris? Look into the astrology of Osiris. Look at the god, the ancient mythical god, the Egyptian god Osiris. What he stands for. In the Holy Trinity, you have Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Rex. What do you know about Rex? Rex is Latin for king. Why did they name the spacecraft and say that Osiris, the god, the Egyptian god Osiris, is king? What are they telling us with the name of the spacecraft? See, these are the things that Z looks into. These are the questions that yours truly asks. Why did you name your spacecraft after the Egyptian god Osiris, who seems to serve as the head of the what can be considered the Holy Trinity that was later represented in Christianity as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit could be potentially looked at as the Holy Mother of Isis. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much. But it begs the question, why the fuck did they name the spacecraft after this Egyptian god Osiris? And then why did they call it Osiris-REx, which means king? Why is NASA telling us that the Egyptian god Osiris is king? It goes back to what I consistently try to impart, is the esoteric nature of their so-called science. And I present it to you with their propaganda and otherwise. Why is their so-called science and academia imbued with an occult undertone consistently, constantly? Why? Why? I'm just saying. I want you all to notice that. And I harp on this, and I continue to harp on this. This understanding that what is being presented to us as science. See, we're told science is a method. The scientific method, which has certain foundational principles. We look at things like the empirical method. We look at things like logic, reasoning, when we talk about science. And in particular, we talk about experiments and experimentation when we talk about science. But that's not the science they're presenting us. They're presenting us a science that's encoded with rituals. Very strange. Why do we name the planets after these so-called gods, these demigods? Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus. Why? If it's science, shouldn't science be left into the realm of science? Why is the esoteric consistently associated with it and the occult? I'm just asking questions, guys, because that's what I do. I ask questions. Right. Our friend Joe from Effed Up World says they worship the stars and the host of heaven. Which is interesting, Joe, because that means they're venerating the creation above the creator. And that may be the great trick of their occult religions, their mystery schools, is the worship and veneration of the physical world as such. They're worshiping the creation, which very likely has been hijacked, adulterated by whatever these beings are. They're worshiping this world above the spiritual world, the world of spirit. Interesting point, Joe, and one it's well taken. Let's continue. The package is a large space capsule that holds a small container filled with regolith, loose rocks and soil from the asteroid's surface. So what they're saying is NASA embarked on a 7-year project where they blasted a capsule into space, a spacecraft as they call it, called OSIRIS-REx, and that this space craft went on a mission and has retrieved samples from this asteroid and now is bringing it back to Earth. Interesting. Let's get into it. The spacecraft OSIRIS-REx origins, spectral interpretation, resource identification, and security regolith explorer. Oh, that's the acronym. Wow. Oh my God. So they wanted to name it all right. This is where I start to scream and get all crazy and lose my shit. This is why it's hard for me to read these articles, guys, because I get emotionally involved in them because they're crazy. So they wanted to name it Osiris. So they gave it because now they're telling you that Osiris is an acronym based off this absurdly long name. I'm going to read it again. Origins, Spectral Interpretation, Resource Information, and Security Regolith Explorer, which is basically then the oh my God, which basically gives us OSIRIS-REx. Wow, as an acronym. They given it an absurd name just to call it OSIRIS-REx. It's so stupid. This is so dumb. It's hard for me to even read to you guys. It's hard for me to even read this, but I'm going to work through it. I'm going to try to breathe. I'm going to breathe in. I'm going to breathe out. I'm going to continue because this is insane. And they try to make me look insane. So now Dr. Z, has to be ostracized. The academic community now has to reject me forever and always because I come out and I point out the absurdity of this. Because I stand up to these assholes as they call it science. And someone like me who's an actual scientist. It is dumb, is it, Christy Lee does? It's insane. They do work hard on the acronyms, Joe. And I'm not supposed to point out the insanity of it? It's so crazy. I almost have a hard time processing it. Idiots. But I'll keep going. The spacecraft OSIRIS-REx was launched on September 8th, 2016. That was a while ago, guys. Like they said, it's been 7 years. And headed out into the asteroid belt, seeking to meet up with and explore Bennu. Okay, so they're telling you that 7 years ago they blasted the spacecraft out into space, into deep space, all the way to the asteroid belt to meet up with Bennu. The trip to Bennu took a year and a half. That's a long time, guys. It only takes a couple days to get to the moon, and the moon's 250,000 miles away. So think about how far away something is that took a year and a half of space travel to get to. And once there, the spacecraft studied the asteroid and took photos. Okay, interesting. Guys, if you fucking believe this, I don't know what to do with you. And they're presenting this as reality, and everybody just believes it. It's crazy. I'm losing my mind just reading this to you. I'm actually losing my mind reading this to you. I'm going to try to keep it together. This is where Yurt pops into my, in a thought experiment, pops into my chat and goes, yeah, it's an appeal to incredulity, Satanic warrior. Logical fallacy. I want to tell you something, Yurt and any other idiot who wants to make that argument. I'm not in a debate right now. This is a form of rhetoric. I'm presenting to my audience. You understand? You want to get me into a debate, Yurt? We'll have a debate. We'll talk about logical fallacies. I'm not in a debate. I'm giving a presentation to my audience. I'll use all the appeal to incredulity that I want, dummy. What I'm really doing is just asking questions. Let me continue. The trip to Bennu took a year and a half, and once there, the spacecraft studied the asteroid and took photos. It then landed on the asteroid for approximately 5 seconds before pushing off it and snapping a few more photos afterward. Afterward, the spacecraft returned to Earth. I want to hear what you guys are really conceptualize what they're saying. They're saying that 7 years ago, they blasted off a spacecraft into space. NASA did so. And after a year and a half of travel, it was able to study the asteroid, take pictures, photos. They call it photos, which is balls, because I'd like to see the so-called photos. And that they were able to land this craft on a moving asteroid for 5 seconds and then push off the craft, snap a few more photos, and then get this spacecraft back to Earth. Are they telling you how they did it? No, they're just telling you that they did it. On September 24th at approximately 4:45 a.m., the OSIRIS-REx will release the capsule containing the sample a mere 63,000 miles from Earth. Around 8:40 a.m., the capsule will enter Earth's atmosphere and scream towards the planet at 27,000 miles an hour. Before deploying parachutes meant to slow it down, it will touch down somewhere, landing in the area of Utah Test and Training Range at Dugway at speeds of 11 miles per hour. So it hasn't happened yet. We're 2 weeks away from this monumental event. So the spacecraft isn't coming back. The spacecraft is going to, as it says, release a capsule containing the sample. Oh my God. You guys think they have the ability to do this? You think it's real? You all think it's real. Let's continue. Crews from NASA preparing for the landing had their final test on August 28th. Scientists and media toured the overlook of the landing site, 37 miles by 9 mile ellipse, which is 25,000 square miles apparently, and got a peek at the clean room that will house the sample while it's being prepped for the journey to Houston Johnson Space Center. The sample asteroid was chosen for several factors, the primary being its near proximity to Earth and its richness in carbon, meaning it can contain the chemical building blocks of life. Here we go. So somehow they knew that this asteroid Bennu that exists in the asteroid belt, they're saying it was near Earth. Interesting. And for some reason they knew it contained carbon, which they're considering the chemical building block of life. Let's continue. Quote, "We're literally looking at geological materials that formed before Earth even existed." Really? This Dante Loretta, who's the OSIRIS-REx principal investigator, says, "You're just going to tell us that you're exploring this rock because of its richness in carbons, and that means that you're looking at the geological materials that formed before Earth even existed?" You're just going to say that. You're just going to posit it. No evidence, no reasoning. This is accepted science now, guys. Let me continue. The sample traveling to the desert of Utah is the largest asteroid sample to ever reach Earth and the first such sample for NASA. Because they're going to say other asteroids have crashed into Earth and we were able to retrieve them. But now NASA's bringing back this asteroid sample. The United States has brought back moon samples, comet samples, and ionic samples. But this is the first asteroid. Ooh, yeah. The scientists involved could not be more excited. I personally wanted to be out there to greet these pieces of Bennu to our home planet, said Loretta. To welcome them. Oh my God. To the curation facility at Johnson Space Center and get them ready for the adventure we're about to put them on. Wow. Personifying these samples. Laura was instrumental in the creation of the mission back in 2008 and has dedicated the last 15 years to the success of OSIRIS-REx. His enthusiasm was contagious during the press conference last week. We're going back to the dawn of the solar system. We are looking for clues as to why Earth is a habitable world, this rare jewel in outer space that has oceans. It has a protective atmosphere, and we think all those materials were brought by these carbon-rich asteroids very early in our planetary system formation, right? So again, this is their presenting to go along with their narrative of evolution, that life was brought to Earth from these asteroids. They have different names for it, transspermia and otherwise. Again, life is a cosmic accident. The foundations of life were brought here through carbon minerals and elements of carbon, I should say, elemental carbon found on these so-called asteroids that crashed into Earth, which were the precursors of life. It's amazing. Hey, you want to talk about logical fallacies? Anybody who wants something? How come in a thought experiment you come here and claim I'm employing logical fallacies, but you never use that same scrutiny to the so-called science presentation as academia? You're unwilling to point out the litany of logical fallacies used to present this narrative of evolution, transspermia, and the very model of the solar system they present. It's laughable. He continued to say they hope the sample provides more clues to the following questions. What is life? How did it originate? And why was Earth the place that it occurred? Loretta further explained that the composition of Bennu was the perfect combination to answer multiple scientific questions. Because Bennu was so rich in carbonaceous compounds, we believe that we are bringing back the kind of material that literally may be representative of the seeds of life that these asteroids delivered at the beginning of our planet that led to this amazing biosphere, biological evolution, again, evolution. And to us being here today and look back on that amazing history, wow. You guys are wizards. You're deceivers. You're grand illusionists. You're fucking bastards. Now you, Loretta, whoever you are, you just may be deceived by whoever these controllers are. I'm not. My listeners aren't. It's unbelievable. The sample will be eventually curated, examined, and studied by scientific teams all over the world. The largest portion will remain with NASA scientists, and a portion will be stored in a secure facility. Portions of the asteroid will be given to Canada and Japan, and the remainder of the sample will be publicly available for analysis by request. Yeah, sure. Hey, if Z requests the sample, you're going to give it to me? I'll go out and buy a microscope. Why don't you give me a sample? Remember that moon sample you guys gave to Amsterdam, and they studied it, and they let us all know it was petrified wood. Remember that? Here's my question: why do we have a so-called Chandrayaan Indian rover on the moon right now that's using advanced laser technology? I believe they call it some kind of like stereoscope or stereographic technology. Why are you using this to analyze the lunar soil when you're telling us you have the ability to send a probe to an asteroid in the asteroid belt that takes a year and a half to get to and a year and a half to come back, maybe more. Why do you have the ability to land on a distant asteroid and send back to Earth a soil sample of that? Why can you do that, but you can't just easily go to the moon and take back the same samples? Why did we need astronauts to take back moon samples in the late 60s and early 70s? Why do you have advanced technology analyzing moon soil now? Why can't you just send the same technology that you use for this Bennu asteroid to the fucking moon and send it back? It doesn't make sense. They can't get their story straight. It strains logic. It strains reasoning. And it's crazy. It's insane. It doesn't add up, guys. And look, here's what it comes down to. When you have an authority system that's presenting such an audacious, such a sensational lie and deception, a lie of such great magnitude, it only serves to increase the spell that they have over you, to entrench the indoctrination and the control. That's all it does. They present a lie. They present a big lie. They say it over and over again. They say it emphatically. And they have authority figures, so-called authority figures, presented to you. And over time, people just believe it. They accept it without questioning it, without questioning the lie, without questioning the information. And they do so to a point that even when presented with overwhelming evidence to the contrary, they'll reject it. Because they're not rejecting it intellectually, cognitively, consciously. They're rejecting it emotionally, because we're emotional beings above and beyond anything else. And because we can't conceptualize the magnitude of such an audacious lie, our psychological defense mechanism is enabled, enacted, and we reject it.